Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. So, pardon my disarray. I'm going to be doing the reader's profile tag, which was created by Hilary at Bustle. I was kindly tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. I think this tag has some prompts which overlap with other tags, but if I have answered these before, well, that's no matter. It's a different time, a different tag. The answers may be different. So there are 10 prompts, and I will just start right in. What for you makes a good book? That's number one. And that I would begin by saying just good writing. Now, everybody would agree with that, and I think what any of us means by that it can be very different from person to person. I thought as far as poetry, I'll show you some examples of what is really good, really clear writing. So I'll start with a little E.E. Cummings. And I won't read the whole poem. I'll just read you one stanza so you can see. You may not quite understand what is being said, but it is being said very clearly. I've read this one before. If up's the word and a world grows greener, minute by second and most by more. If death is the loser and life is the winner, and beggars are rich but misers are poor, let's touch the sky with a to and a fro and a here, there, where, and away we go. In even the laziest creature among us, a wisdom no knowledge can kill is astir. Now dull eyes are keen, and now keen eyes are keener. For young is the year, for young is the year. Let's touch the sky with a great and a gay and a steep, deep rush through amazing day. Its brains without hearts have set saint against sinner, put gain over gladness and joy under care. Let's do as an earth which can never do wrong does, minute by second and most by more. Let's touch the sky with a strange and a true and a climbing fall into far near blue. If beggars are rich and a robin will sing his robin a song, but misers are poor, let's love until no one could quite be, and young is the year, dear, as living as I'm and as you're. Let's touch the sky with a you and a me, and an every who's any, who's someone, who's we. I said I was going to read one stanza, and I read all four. I read the complete poem. My apologies, I just couldn't hold myself back. And for another example, I intended to read the full poem, something by Gerard Manley Hopkins. This is very, very famous, and it has that same kind of clarity. Not all poems do, but this makes for a good poem, I think. This is called Spring and Fall to a Young Child. Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? Leaves like the things of man you with your fresh thoughts care for, can you? Ah, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder by and by, nor spare a sigh, though worlds of wanwood leaf meal lie, and yet you will weep and know why. Now, no matter, child, the name, sorrow's springs are the same, nor mouth had, no nor mind expressed, what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourn for. So, I think you see the clarity there, even if you're not 100% sure what he is telling you. Let's go into some nonfiction. My paragon, Moses Finley, and when I say the quality of the writing, I mean basically the straightforward grammar, for one thing. A word choice, of course, is important, but I think something like Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake is not going to cut it for me in terms of just that basic grammar, although I haven't looked at either of those books for a while. Somebody with more recent experience could confirm or dispute me on that. But let me read you just a paragraph, really a sentence, I think, from the preface. This is a book about the study and understanding of the history of the Greeks and Romans, about the evidence that is available to the historians and its severe limitations, about the practices of historians in dealing with the evidence, and about alternative procedures that might be attempted. In sum, about what we can know and what we are unlikely ever to know. That, besides being crystal clear and pristine writing, it also has the benefit of telling you exactly what the book is going to be about. And so I find that sort of thing helpful. In my own prose writing, I have never been able to be so straightforward. I've always tended toward murkiness. Murky writing can be fine, I think, but it's not what I would automatically consider something that makes up a good book. It's probably the rarity where murkiness could make up a good book. Now we're thinking about fiction, and I would say the same thing holds. And I thought I would read just a couple of... I pulled out the Cairo trilogy. So talking about fiction, one of the things that I like is sort of a modulated pace. I don't think as a whole that this book is as good as I might like. The first volume, Palace Walk, works the best of the three. But one thing that he does, which is very nice, is all of the chapters are about equal in length. I recently read Traitor's Niche by Ismail Kadare, I think is his name, and you had very short chapters and very long chapters, and to me that does not make for a good book. That's not to say a book can't have those kind of disparate lengths in chapters, but disparate lengths in chapters counts against a book. And then I thought I would just read you a couple of opening sentences. When it comes to translations, I will always pick the one that has the best, the clearest English presentation, regardless of how much it's true to the original, that sort of thing. Actually, I have more translations here than I would have thought. And this is the famous book by Franz Kafka, The Trial. And let me just read you this first sentence, and you'll hear how well done it is. Someone must have traduced Joseph K., for without having done anything wrong, he was arrested one fine morning. I've seen other versions of that sentence, none of which is so good, so memorable as that. Someone must have traduced Joseph K. And then, of course, let's go with Lady Murasaki, the Seidensticker translation. Just listen to this first sentence. I mean, you can't do better than this. In a certain reign, there was a lady not of the first rank, whom the emperor loved more than any of the others. So I think that, side by side with the Kafka first sentence, gives you a pretty clear idea what I mean of the sentence. As far as characters, plot, that sort of thing, that's neither here nor there for me. Number 2, what are you currently reading? I am currently reading 4 things. Well, I don't know where Euclid is. I read 1 chapter of Euclid's Elements and set it aside and have not gotten back to it, but I'm still considering myself as reading Euclid. Then I am reading Henry Adams' The History of the United States. It's in 2 volumes, the first dealing with the presidential administration of Thomas Jefferson, and the second volume with that of James Madison. So I'm enjoying that very much. It's pretty much a year-long project for me. Then I am reading 2 Years Before the Mast by, what's his name, Richard Dana, and The Great Church in Captivity by Stephen Runciman. I'm going very slow on this. Number 3, what is the last book you didn't finish and why? Oh, here it is. Les Miserables. It was a bit of a traumatic experience for me, and so I have blotted it out of my mind. I could point to one thing, but I tried searching through it to see if I could find the passage, and I just felt such a revulsion or disgust heaving within me that I set the book aside, and I don't want to retouch that. Number 4, what obscure book do you wish other people would read? And I've mentioned this before. I mean, I could just as well say Ancient History, Evidence and Models by M.I. Finley, for exactly the reason he stated in the paragraph I read to you. I wish people in general had a more realistic understanding of what history can do and what it cannot do. But let's get on to a novel, The Afternoon of a Writer by Peter Hankey. It's a very short novel. It's 73 pages. I would call that a novella, I guess, but it says right there, so it must be the case. And this, I think, is a Mannheim translation. Mannheim was always, Ralph Mannheim. A very good translator. And the late Ralph Mannheim, I should clarify. I've read this twice a long time ago and like it very much. Not much happens in it. And I would just like to hear somebody else talk about it and hear what they have to say. I don't know that I would feel the same way were I to reread it again. Number 5, what's the longest book you ever read? It could have been War and Peace, which I started this year with, by Leo Tolstoy, but I don't think it is, although that may have felt like the longest book. It was the best book that I could have possibly begun my year with. But there are these long passages toward the end in, I think it's a couple of appendices which he appended, discussing the nature of history. And they made the book seem like the longest book ever written. But I think the longest book that I've read was The Plum in the Golden Vase. This is volume 5. It consists of 5 volumes. As with so many Chinese novels, there are 100 chapters, and each volume reprints 20 of them. And this did not seem like a long read at all. It was just a marvelous story. This again is a celebrated translation. It's the only translation in full. That's how a lot of these Chinese and other Asian classics have been. Only, if you're lucky, one complete translation exists. If you're lucky, one. I think, what is it, the Water Margin or Outlaws of the Marsh, I think that does not even exist in a complete translation yet. The Plum in the Golden Vase is an anonymous 16th century work that focuses on the domestic life of I Ching, a corrupt, upwardly mobile merchant in a provincial town, who maintains a harem of 6 wives and concubines. That's a bit sensationalizing the story. To say maintains a harem, well, the novel, known primarily for its erotic realism, is also a landmark in the development of the narrative art form, not only from a specifically Chinese perspective, but in a world historical context. It's known as a pornographic book by some people. It has explicit sex scenes. Number 6. If you could have a dinner party with 5 fictional characters, who would they be? And I'm going to be a little bit coy or snippy here and answer Thomas Jefferson. Number 7, 5 books you'd want if stranded on a desert island. This was fun. I just watched the Beyond Books version of this tag. In fact, I'll put a link to it in the description. And one of the things that Renee said she would bring was a dictionary, and I think that is perfect. I should have thought of that, but I considered changing my answer. I think that actually should precede anything. She said that she might fall to writing her own stories, and that's very good. But also, simply, if you go into the etymology of words, all of the stories of the world are somehow in that dictionary, one way or another. And she also said she would bring the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. And I that's a very good choice. I have a different Chinese classic on my island, however. So, what would be the 5? This is just willy-nilly, I suppose, but I would say Dante, the Divine Comedy. I mean, with Dante, I wavered. I could just go with the Vita Nova or Nuova, or other poems by him. Now, where did, I moved things around. Now this was, oh, I see, the cat is on it. I would want to bring it in an annotated volume with the Italian. This is a nice bilingual edition, the Sinclair version, but it's not the only one. I wouldn't actually mind having a different one having a more current one, because I'm sure Dante's scholarship has advanced. I would like this because, number one, it's one book that I hope to read again before I die. And number two, and I may not get there, but number two, I would like to read it now with a regard to history, the historical context. I read it a couple of times when I was rather young, and so I didn't know who all these personages were that he kept encountering. And now I would take a lot more interest in following the notes and just learning everything about who they were and why Dante put them there in regards to his own politics and the politics of the day. So that's number one. Number two would be the New Testament. I wouldn't even need the whole New Testament, just the four Gospels. And if it came down to it, I probably wouldn't even need the four Gospels, just one of them. But why not just take the whole thing? This is my old copy. You may say, why not just say the Bible? Well, the Bible is kind of heavy, and I really don't particularly care for the Bible. Possibly, were I to do so, I would say maybe the Psalms. Yeah, I don't know if it's. I suppose it would be worth bringing the whole book along to have the Psalms, because I think those would be worth revisiting. Okay. I'll go back to, well, no, this is the order. The Chinese classic that I would bring is the I Ching, and I'm going to take a bit of a digression here and talk about it a little bit. This also touches on, oh, look at this, I got money falling out. And T's. No way I should have brought this amount of money home with me. So, and I obviously was given this. Oh God, look at how crisp these are. This is the way it's supposed to be. So I don't know that these came, but I don't know. Sorry. And as I say, I'm going to do a big digression on the I Ching. It's, I believe, in world status, it's the book that is second only to the Bible. And as the West loses supremacy, maybe at some point it will displace the Bible. That would be very nice. One aspect of what makes a book good is if it is relatable, if it is somehow relatable to your own life. And so for me, something like this, which is a book of philosophy, philosophy attuned to your personal situation, is very relatable. On an island, it might come in extremely handy. You don't know. So I thought I would just ask it a question. I have not done this for such a long time, and in fact, my special coins are missing. I don't know where they are. They were in a little container, because you're supposed to only use the same coins over and over again. And you have 3 coins, and one side gets a 3, the numeral 3, and one side gets a 2. Any addition of this will have an explanation. So I'm gonna. My question, by the way, before I throw it, is because I've contemplated this: should I close my BookTube channel? Now, I've been thinking about closing it at the end of August with the anniversary of its start date, and I've also thought of closing it with the anniversary of the January 6th attempted coup. So I'm not sure, but so should I close my channel? So it's all ready. depending on the number, some of your lines will have changes in them. And, oh my. Two changes in a row. Like I say, I haven't done this for so long. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Three changes in a row. Oh my God. This has never happened before. Oh my God. Ha! The last line did not have a change in it, but the first five did, which is crazy. Okay. Okay. Now, if I can remember how to find the thing, each hexagram, I think they are called, is made up of 2 trigrams, and I think, oh, look at this, more money. I'm coming across money all over the place. Look at this. I have not looked at this for a long time. This book has this edition. This is the Wilhelm edition, which has served me all my life, and it has this handy chart. An older copy won't. There's supposed to be a method where you can just find it without having to resort to the chart, but I've always needed the chart. The only warning about this book is that, it has a introduction by Carl Jung, where he treats the book as a book of divination, I think, as opposed to a book of philosophy. This is a translation of a translation, incidentally. Richard Wilhelm did it into German, and then Baines did it from the German. So, but I think it's pretty good. But I think even the old, is it James Legge, Legge? That's a very old one. I used to have that one. It's still a decent translation, but this has a lot of supplementary material to explain the book to you. So I have the trigram repeated. It's the Ken, so that's number 52. And let us see what the book has to say. And I will not read you all of the changes. Maybe, well, maybe I should, just because it'll give you a sense of how the book works. Okay. So I think that would probably be more gun. Keeping still the mountain. The image of this hexagram is the mountain, the youngest son of heaven and earth. The male principle is at the top because it strives upward by nature. The female principle is below, since the direction of its movement is downward. Thus there is rest, because the movement has come to its normal end. In its application to man, the hexagram turns upon the problem of achieving a quiet heart. It is very difficult to bring quiet to the heart. While Buddhism strives for rest, through an ebbing away of all movement in nirvana. The Book of Changes holds that the rest is merely a state of polarity that always posits movement as its complement. Possibly the words of the text embody directions for the practice of yoga. The judgment, keeping still, keeping his back still so that he no longer feels his body. He goes into his courtyard and does not see his people. No blame. True quiet means keeping still when the time has come to keep still, and going forward when the time has come to go forward. In this way, rest and movement are in agreement with the demands of the time, and thus there is light in life. The hexagram signifies the end and the beginning of all movement. The back is named because in the back are located all the nerve fibers that mediate movement. If the movement of these spinal nerves is brought to a standstill, the ego, with its restlessness, disappears, as it were. When a man has thus become calm, he may turn to the outside world. He no longer sees in it the struggle and tumult of individual beings, and therefore he has that true peace of mind which is needed for understanding the great laws of the universe and for acting in harmony with them. Whoever acts from these deep levels makes no mistakes. So you can see how, read in conjunction with that specific question, the sentences take on meaning that they otherwise might not have had. The image, mountains standing close together, the image of keeping still. Thus, the superior man does not permit his thoughts to go beyond his situation. The heart thinks constantly. This cannot be changed. But the movements of the heart, that is, a man's thoughts, should restrict themselves to the immediate situation. All thinking that goes beyond this only makes the heart sore. And then, in this case, to give you the lines, any line where a change has occurred gets broken down separately and goes into more detail. And then by changing of one line or several lines, the hexagram transforms into another hexagram. And I've never really understood quite how that works. I should also say that this is sort of part A. Then there's explanatory material. Oh, more money. This isn't the one I just showed you. This is my money book, obviously. And then there's a third section, which is kind of a duplicate of what I just read to you in the first section, but slightly different with nuances. And so normally you would read both the first part and then the third part, and then you would read those individual lines where the change occurred. And so it gives me a lot to think upon in regards to the question. Now, at some point with a book like this, its power comes from addressing specific instances and questions in your own life. But as with any text, the ultimate purpose is to wean yourself from the book, wean yourself from the text. And I think that's what has happened with me. So it's really been a long time since I've done this. But on a desert island, I think I would, and maybe I should start using it again for a little bit, just as a refresher. So, okay, now what did I do with my prompts? Got all this money, and oh, there they are. So we're still on the 5 books. I thought for Moses Finley, I would bring this. It's a book of sundry essays grouped into three topics. I think one was maybe the city, one was slavery, and what was the other one? Well, let's see. I've read a little bit from this on the channel elsewhere. Yeah, so number one, part one, the ancient city, part two, servitude, slavery, and the economy, and part three, Mycenae and Homer. So this touches on major themes of his work. I would bring it because to be reminded that this kind of thinking is possible. I don't, did I just put my prompts in here somewhere? I think I did, yep. I don't know that I will be rereading this book in my life, but it would be nice to do and be given that occasion to do. And then my fifth desert island book would be Cicero's letters to his friends. I haven't read this. Penguin has it, or had it, in two volumes. There is a complementary volume, thicker than either of these, of his letters to his friend Atticus. And I read that about 10 years ago. Really loved it, and have always thought that I would like to read this. And it would give me a good excuse to do so, being stuck on a desert island. Number 8, one book you could not put down. That has not happened to me very much. The closest to come to that would be The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Number 9, 5 books or authors you will never read. This is just sort of off the top of my head, and I came up with some. Bill O'Reilly, that's number 1. Boris Johnson, that's number 2. Lance Armstrong, that's number 3. Jared Kushner, that's number 4. I should say that Pat at Book Chat with Pat mentioned Kushner and his family in her version of this tag. I will link that tag below. And what I did not, obviously I had a fifth one in mind, and I can't think of what it might have been. I didn't write it down because I didn't really have enough space on the page, and now I can't think of who the fifth person might have been. I think I was trying for something different than just Republican political figure. I'm drawing a blank. Let's say George W. Bush. Number 10, if you were to write a book, what would it be about? Well, the words came to mind. I had written a book titled The Soul's Refinement. I've written mainly poetry. And somebody said, and I think it might have been put on the back, that the book was about a firestorm of the soul. I had never even heard the phrase fire, or the word firestorm, but I like that. So I think if I were to write a book, it would be about a firestorm of the soul. Now, I am supposed to tag some people, and I will do. I haven't given much thought to this, and the video has gone on, so I will put the names of my taggees in the description box. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.